Howdy folks, it's Zach, and welcome back to my Gamers Tips and Tricks section. And today we're back with Real Talk with Real Gamers. And today we've got a brand new special guest with us tonight. So obviously I am Zach, you know me. Penny is back with me again, and you know her from some of the other episodes. But tonight, instead of Xenoff, we have a brand new gamer with us tonight. This is Mr. Orange. And Mr. Orange, just so the audience can get to know you a little bit, can you tell me a little bit about like how you got into gaming and how you specifically, like, how did you get into SWTOR?
So, gaming in general. Oh, let's see. I think it was around like 94, 95. My grandfather.
When I was
bought,
a wee lad.
yeah, I know, right? He bought a Sega Genesis. And I remember the games I had for that. Mm-hmm. It was The Lion King, Sonic 2, Power Rangers.
Yes!
I think that was it. The Power Rangers fighting game back then. And then after that, it was Nintendo 64. Got that. Then I started to get into like some PC stuff. And then I got like an original Xbox for Christmas. Mm-hmm. And then it just kind of been going like Xbox there. And then once I actually had money, I got a PC and started SWTOR. A little bit after launch. I did participate in the beta a little bit too. Mm-hmm. I think it was like March. Would it be because this game came out in 2011, in the fall, right?
Yeah. So let me ask you this, man. So you've been playing since the beta. That's a long time, and that was actually something like Penny, Xenoff, and I all talked about because we all came in at different times. I actually have been playing since the beta too. But what has been, in your opinion, what's been your favorite part about playing Star Wars: The Old Republic? Like, what has kept you coming back all this time?
I mean, the Star Wars thing is what kept me interested.
Yeah.
It's mainly what keeps you going back, especially with any MMO. It's usually the community. Mm-hmm. All the people you raid with, you become friends with them. You enjoy interacting with them. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, if they're not, because like I was looking and going to like another game, but everyone didn't want to go to that. So I'm like, all right, I'll just go back and play Star Wars. I'm good with it. Mm-hmm. Like it's like getting past that thing. I mean, I've also had, because I was part of Invictus before I went to Morons and Mayhem, mm-hmm. and that kind of, we had, I think throughout my time there, because, I mean, I guess now I am the GM, quote-unquote, it's like a shell. But
you're like, is this a GM that you inherited?
I was an officer in it, so.
Oh, yeah, okay.
But,
Invictus is the pub-side guild that Xenoff and I moved to in the end of 3.0 and the beginning of 4.0. So that's actually how I met Andrew.
That's right. I mean, that's right. I was like, Invictus, why does this sound so familiar? And I was about to look up like band titles on Google, be like, Invictus, is he in a band that I didn't know about?
Invictus was one of the top tier like pub progression guilds.
Yeah, they were.
And some of the guys I played with there, they got tired it was probably, I want to say 5 or 6 months before 4.0. Mm-hmm. Something around that. And once they figured out they were doing new ops, they just stopped playing.
Yeah.
By that time I was already, because I went from being hardcore progression to casual, kind of up and down, or hardcore PvP on that end throughout this game. So I've kind of hit different roles throughout the game.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's actually interesting that you say that, too, because that kind of brings us into our first topic tonight. That's actually like a really good segue. So the new expansion, KOTET, has already been announced, and they've already now put out the Betrayed trailer, which I was talking to Penny before the show. I have like analyzed this thing like to death, like frame by frame. I actually like downloaded it into my movie editing software and was like literally going like scene by scene, frame by frame, and analyzing it from like a movie making perspective. And I actually have to take a step back because the interesting thing is that now that this has been announced, like what you just mentioned, like some people, like the shelf life of a game varies from game to game, and like especially with MMOs, it's hard to keep it fresh, it's hard to keep it interesting, and we're definitely in the territory as long-term gamers to be looking at expansions to kind of keep us coming back to it, where a new game it's just new, you've never played it before, you can just jump in and just try it, and now we're looking to expansions. So let me start with this, guys. Like, so if you guys have both seen the trailers, like what has gotten you excited now that you've seen the trailer? What maybe getting you excited to keep pushing forward and keep playing Star Wars based off what you saw in the trailer?
Do you want to go first? Yeah, me too.
Oh, you can go first.
What a gentleman.
So
we're like,
I mean, I just want to be respectful. If he wants to go first, I don't mind letting Mr. Orange go first. So I will say that the trailer was amazing.
Yeah.
It was, I mean, I was in awe watching it. And some of the stuff they have planned for 5.0, like some of the group content, and I say group kind of loosely, it's more like a Flashpoint group. The uprisings seem really cool. I really hope they're unique and they don't turn out like Star Fortresses, because I got very tired very quickly of running Star Fortresses. I ran them all, I got all the achievements, and then I was just done.
Yeah. But this is the Nar Shaddaa Star Fortress, and I'm like,
and
it looks exactly like the others. Right.
Yeah. So I did all of that. I really hope the uprisings are unique. I'm really intrigued to see what those, are all about. As far as story content, that up until KOTOR, or not KOTOR. Wow. Woo! Up until Knights of the Fallen Empire.
Yeah.
I spacebarred through everything in SWTOR, except for like the second chapter of the Bounty Hunter. So I will play through everything. I am excited that they are releasing it all at once versus a month here, one here, one there every month, because 45 minutes playing waiting a month is just not very good, in my opinion.
I thought they were trying to copy the Guild Wars 2 model a little bit there, where Guild Wars 2 does a living world, is what they call it. And so it's like every other couple weeks, when they're in that season, they release like another chapter. And that was, it's not necessarily bad or a bad model, because then technically you are releasing new content on a regular basis. But the downside was that I feel like the chapters that came out all at once had a really good progression. The chapters that were sporadic really felt like we were muddling until the end and just kind of filling time.
So I'm excited about that. And then above all, I am excited about the whisper, about ops. The hints, the little hints here and there, the little nickel and diming that we're getting. I'm really excited, and I remain hopeful for the live stream in January. This is what keeps me in the game. There's still a couple of bosses that my team, has to kill, so we're still working on that. Other than that, that's what's keeping me here. The community that I play with, because I really enjoy running with my team. And, the last couple of bosses that we need to kill, which is like Styrak, Master and Blaster, and Brontus.
Yeah.
And then the live stream in January. Yeah. We're all in agreement in the guild, the teams that we have running, that once the live stream happens, we'll have to discuss it from there, because, we don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, that's true. Let me ask you this, too. Let me go back to the trailer for a second. And this will be a question for both of you, but I do want to start with Penny on this one. How did you feel watching this trailer as opposed to the original Knights of the Fallen Empire trailer, that this one focused in on women? Because, let's face it, most of the gamer audience that designers try to appeal to is usually men. But one of the things that I actually thought made this trailer so specifically powerful is that it focused in on women. And it was using little clips from the previous trailer, but from a totally different perspective, where I actually felt, this is just me, more connected to Valen in that trailer than just about any other character I've seen in any of the trailers yet. That was my experience. I was actually curious, how did you feel about that as a female gamer, especially watching this particular trailer starring women?
I mean, I was really impressed and really kind of intrigued to see the other side. At first I was like, okay, who's this kid? Because it didn't dawn on me until probably about halfway through that it was Valen.
I know, right? She looks nothing like her.
Right? I was just like, okay, who's this other kid? Do they have another kid that we don't know about? How many babies did she pop out? This was in the back of my mind while I'm watching this, first and foremost.
Oh my god.
But
I had this moment where I was watching it going did they get Chloe Grace Moretz in the cast? Is she doing a character and a voice? Because it kind of looked like her. Automatically, I was like, it looks like Chloe Grace Moretz. This would be great.
Well, not only that, but the way they portray Valen as a grown woman, the whole mother abandoned me, she betrayed me, and and just how she goes on and on about how the boys were favored and she was left behind, and you see that she really wasn't. She was kind of protected. Senya really took that extra step to try and keep her out of Valkorian's eye, because she knew what would happen, because it happened with the twins.
Yeah.
And I think that is just a huge, like, eye-opener, because you expect, the way she portrays it, and I'm sure, obviously that's on purpose, but, you expected to, see that she was just kind of, like, dumped there and like, oh, well, here you go, you're force sensitive. Because when you're a Sith, usually that's what happens. But I thought it was great, and it definitely put in the other perspective of Valen, and then a side to her that we didn't see, and then just seeing how she turned and really kind of embraced her dark side, more so I do believe than the boys. Was also really kind of intriguing as well.
Yeah. Andrew, how about you, man? Like, how did you feel watching the trailer, especially because it was starring women? And, like, what experience did you have while watching that?
I guess I really didn't even, like, think about it. Like, it just seemed normal to me.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
Like, it was just really, it seemed like they really drawn out the characters in it. It never seemed like any of it was like stereotypical or just cliche. I guess sometimes you get that that's kind of how I felt with like some of the two sons were.
Yeah, a little
very cardboardy in terms of characters. You can kind of predict what they would do. She has a little bit more depth to her, especially after the trailer. Definitely, it seems like she has more depth to her.
Yeah, with Valen, and I agree with Penny on this one a little bit. Where I actually wasn't sure that was Valen right away, because it's like I know this is supposed to be Valen. Like I had that thought going, but the kicker was that the Valen we saw in that trailer matched to almost nothing that I felt of Valen we've seen thus far. Like, even down to the hair color. I was like, this Valen's blonde, that Valen is brunette. This Valen here seems to have had, but, hear me out. But what I liked about the trailer was I connected with Senya in a way I had not previously done before. And Senya, who had the most intriguing backstory of all the new companions that we've seen, now gets fleshed out in a new way. My only problem with the trailer, for the most part, was that I felt like it didn't feel like it jived up with what we already knew about, like, the Senya Valen relationship that we've seen thus far. Because this looked much deeper and more complex, and Valen comes across in most of the chapters as, I'm the crazy Sith lady. Like, whereas this trailer made me want to know about this character. This was intriguing. I was like, now this is what I felt like she should have been like from the start, where there's definitely good in her. And where Valen or Senya makes this big case about, like, I can change Arkin at the end of... By the way, spoilers ahead, guys. For my audience members, there be spoilers in these waters. When Arkin at the end, and Senya saves Arkin, and it kind of says like there could be good in him. I'm sitting there on the fence, kind of going like, I'm not really feeling it. Maybe only a mother really can at this point, but I'll give her a pass because I like Senya. Whereas like in this trailer, if Senya had done the same thing for Valen and said like there's good in her, after having watched that trailer, I'd have been like, oh yeah, maybe there actually could be. Because they actually made a better case for it there, which I thought was fantastic, and more of that. I actually have another like video I was preparing about that trailer analysis, but yeah, I just felt like this Valen was almost characterized differently, where there was like such a predominantly more good side to her, and yes, we kind of see like a corruption and a decision there, but I just kind of felt like. The Valen we've seen thus far, just, I'm crazy to be crazy, like, I'm cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, where this Valen actually seemed, like, driven, focused, and, like, a precision to her path of revenge, where at the end, where she faces down Senya, it is a totally different character than the Valen I thought we'd seen before. I don't know. Andrew, what do you think about that? Do you think I'm barking up the wrong tree on that?
I would have to agree. I haven't played all the chapters. My primary thing in the game is like group content and game stuff.
Yeah.
So, from what I've played of it, I would say like she just seemed like your stereotypical evil Sith. Like nothing too crazy complex in there. And after watching the trailer, I mean, I would say at first glance, I was like, oh, they're introducing some new character here. What the hell's this?
Yeah.
But it definitely makes her a little bit more relatable and I would say more interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I've actually started playing through some of the chapters again, so maybe I can know what's going on in the story a little more.
Yeah.
Especially with the new stuff coming out. That trailer definitely got me more interested in it. So.
Yeah. And how about you, Penny? Like, do you feel like you're more motivated now to like jump into the chapters, maybe in a way you weren't for Knights of the Fallen Empire?
Oh yeah, I want to see if they flesh out the backstory more. I want to know what made her so driven to, be that way towards her mother, and to like how brainwashed do you have to be to forget that your mother came to try and kidnap you back from the evil, the evil dude that is your father,
Yeah.
So, I really kind of want to see how they flesh that out. And obviously it can go numerous different ways. They are hinting that your choices are going to be way more permanent. Mm-hmm. So before where, yes, you could kill Kaleo, when you could kill Kaleo or, send her away. And same for Koth. I don't think you could ever kill him, but you could send him away. And he didn't actually stay gone. I do believe Kaleo stayed dead, obviously. Yeah. But, they're hinting that, that's going to be more of a thing. Like, your actions are going to impact your alliance more strongly. Or stronger. So, I'm really kind of intrigued to see how it plays out, and to see, the backstory and, how they all interacted together and what led up to this pinnacle of hatred within Valen.
Right. Just for my own permission, Mr. Orange, how many chapters have you played through? Like,
let's see. I think I did. I think I just finished 10.
Okay. So you're
I'm like halfway.
Yeah. You're actually in what I call the deep part of the bad, where it's that's the slowest part. Like, once you kind of get. Again, Visions of the Dark, guys. I'm sorry. I had the highest expectations for that, and it fell flat on its face. Visions of the Dark. Once you kind of get past Visions of the Dark, it starts getting better, and the pace starts picking up again a little bit. But okay, so I'm just trying to get my brain about where you are. So when we talk about these things, we're not just spoiling it for audience members. We're also spoiling it for you. Always really good. I'm glad about that.
Honestly, that doesn't bother me too much.
Yeah.
Like, knowing the end of something doesn't bother me.
Mm-hmm.
Especially the way they do the stories, there's still a lot of individual choices you make in them.
Yeah.
So, you could spoil main plot points, but at the same point, you still need to know how you got there. So that's,
good point,
to me, what I like about it.
Good point.
So.
Yeah, one of the things I'm kind of interested with KOTET is obviously the bones of the plot are there, and one of the things I actually liked about this trailer is that Senya as a character that we've kind of seen develop, because let's just face it, when you wipe the slate clean with Knights of the Fallen Empire, like BioWare had to, because if you're trying to take 8 storylines and admit we can't make 8 individual storylines like we wish we could, but maybe we can make one storyline that all 8 characters now become into. But to do that also means if we want to introduce the storylines the way we want to, we may have to introduce a new cast. So in a lot of ways, I look at Knights of the Fallen Empire really as the sequel to the core game, where if you played the 8 chapter stories, you did Zeost and Shadow of Revan all as one character, then by the time you finish up Shadow of Revan, that is now the end of a particular trilogy almost. Mm-hmm. And now Knights of the Fallen Empire is the new one, and that way they bring in all those characters into a new setting and environment with a new cast of characters. One guy gets carried over, but now there's a bunch of new players on the field, and it's a second trilogy. Who would you introduce in a second trilogy? And as long as I think of it that way, usually these things help. But I didn't really fall in love with any of the particular characters, and of them, this is something that, this is for Mr. Orange mostly, Penny and I, we talked about this in another show with Xenoff, who did we kind of gravitate to as a companion of the new cast? And of them, I liked Senya the best. I still didn't feel like I had a huge chance to really get to know her. And in the early chapters of like 1 through 9, the block that came out all together,
Yeah.
you kind of get some one-on-one development time with them. Not nearly as much as you had with your original companions, but at least enough to kind of know their point of view, at least until like they start dropping bombs on you and you're like, what? They are like, Senya's actually Arkin and Thexen's mother, and you're just like, what? That's a great reveal. That's one of my favorites. However, and we talked about this too, that would have been a much better reveal in the last chapter, where like if she dropped that bomb then, it would have been like Empire Strikes Back, like bomb dropping. That would have been great. But with Knights of the Eternal Throne, the thing that I'm kind of excited about is I feel like even with this trailer, I'm starting to get to know Senya more, and not a single word was spoken, but I feel like I now connect with this character so much better than I did just by watching her and her reactions. I really want more of that. There's other characters too in this expansion. I'm really curious. Like, can they make me feel something, especially towards our villains and our heroes, the new cast, that I didn't feel before? Is that going to be a part of this? I kind of hope that it is. The curiosity of which is enough to pull me into that expansion, where I'm like, okay, KOTET, I'm on board. I want to see it. Like this trailer, even if I don't break down every analytical moment, I can say that it made me feel like I knew this character better now. Both of these characters a little better now. And that has me excited to move into the sequel. Would you say like you kind of agree with that? You're kind of excited where they go? Or are you a little bit more like, what are you guys excited about out of the sequel right now, based off the trailer?
I'm just excited to see what else happens after seeing that trailer. I mean, since I haven't played throughout all the chapters, I will by the time that comes out. But like, it'd be neat to see how they expand on some of the story they introduced there, and just to see how well it's presented versus at the trailer. Because I mean, that trailer has some pretty high production values, even just considering that.
Yeah, it does.
And they presented a story in a really good way that it's like they fit a lot in 6 minutes.
They really did.
So
I was impressed with like the elemental part of it, where there's a lot of symbolism in that whole thing, and what really like was the gut punch to me, because I don't think a lot of people pick up on like little things like costume changes, but there's Senya the mother and then there's Senya the warrior in that trailer, where there's times where she's wearing her armor when she isn't. And what's really interesting about the way they put that trailer together is that you see when things are good between Senya and Valen. At the start, it's Senya the mother with Valen the daughter, and like Earth is kind of the symbol of like harmony between the two of them. And what's really interesting is that the next time you see her, she's standing next to her armor away from Valen in this other room, and as she's looking away, there's a symbolism of just, she is distant when she is closer to her warrior side. The armor's on the rack, the daughter's over there, but then there's this great part where they come back together and she actually touches her, which you don't see Valkorion do in either trailer. He doesn't touch anybody, really. And that's like this really motherly, interesting thing. And when she does, there's this great thing. And Wood obviously has a lot of symbolism there too throughout the trailer. And what's great is like when you see her, like, I actually felt like when she was watching the boys, she's not trying to be the boys. She's trying to be more like her mother. Her mother's the warrior that she's close to. Her mother is the fighter. Her mother is all these things. And there's this great dissonance there that it's not Senya the warrior that can save Valen. The message you get through this trailer is that, especially like when Valkorion, you see the scene of him walking Valen away from Senya, that's Senya the mother. Like, Senya the mother is losing her daughter. Senya the soldier still exists afterwards. And Senya the soldier who comes to try to rescue her is not able to. And I loved the symbolism of that, where it is not the warrior Senya that is going to be able to save her daughter. That's not going to happen. It has to be Senya the mother. And as I'm watching this trailer, and I'm feeling all these things, and I'm like, gosh dang it, they can make a good trailer. Like, I wish that, like, when does the next raid come out? Like, if you put this much into a 6-minute trailer, it was great. And it was these, like, little, like, subtle things that just kind of pop out at you, like, oh my gosh, like, you don't realize you're seeing it, but you are seeing it, and it connects with you whether you realize it or not.
No, I completely agree. I'm really kind of intrigued to see how they're going to tidy it up in a pretty little bow, because I don't know if they can wrap up this storyline with just chapters. Yeah. You know, like, that would kind of be anticlimactic. You know, it would be... I know for the Shadow of Revan, you had the option to do the raid, or to do the Revan fight solo, which was kind of cool. I do like that. You know, because it gives you two different options, and they were two very different fights. It's not like you went into the temple solo. You fought Revan on the battlegrounds, and you fought him with all your, you know, Darth Mar and everything like that.
Yeah, all your story companions.
If they did, all your story companions. So if they did something like that, I think I would be okay with it, because it gives, you know, the easy way for people who perhaps don't raid or don't want to raid. But then it also satisfies us, the raiders, when they give us a raid. And I think that's what we're all sort of anxiously awaiting, too, to see, like, okay, this could be an epic operation. I think we talked about that in other videos, about how amazing it would be if we had to go against Valen.
I know. Valen and Valkorion is like a combo boss, especially after fighting through, like, maybe Scorpio as a sub-boss, or, just, like, the possibilities are endless there. And yeah, I agree with you. That's actually been one of the curious parts to me too. And this is actually more of a question for you guys. Do you feel like the core of the game so far, in the first, you know, leg of the game, is all about you? You are becoming like the hero of the universe. Do you feel like with KOTET coming out that your player character is still the central figure of the story?
I would say no.
Yeah.
I mean, they gave you this like very vague Outlander title. It just kind of, it almost seems like an and to the story, which is fine. You're definitely not the central figure like you were in all the other story missions that you played through. It almost seems like it negates it at some points.
Yeah. What would you feel like would kind of turn that around for you? Because, like, it matters if we were talking about fighting gaming fatigue a little bit. You know, if you being the central character of a story pushes you into the next chapter, do you feel like what do you feel like could keep pushing you through the story? If you're not if you don't feel like you're the central character, what do you think might still pull you through?
I mean, I would say just a well-written story in general with actual deep and complex characters is kind of what keeps your interest. I mean, if you get too many boilerplate, like evil Sith, they kill people, or a Jedi, they're all white knighting around all over the place. It's nice to see
white knighting. I like that. Yeah.
It's nice to see like complexity behind characters and just like flaws and cracks and things like that. Especially you see it in like a lot of like modern shows. Like they're not all these guys are good, these guys are bad. Like look at Game of Thrones, for instance. Like the reason people love that is because of the depth behind every single character in there. I mean, there are some that do more bad things, but they're not all bad, but they're not all good.
Yeah.
So I think that if they can weave more of that in there, that would make it incredibly more interesting. Because I guess it also might make it seem more realistic at the same time.
Yeah.
So
that's cool.
I agree. Yeah. I think that story in any type of setting, especially if you're having to play through it by yourself, it's not something that you can play through with a group, really. Story content, if that's what you're going for, then you need to bring it. Like, it has to be there. I mean, there's no other way to put it. There's no, you can't beat around the bush. If you say, this is story content, okay, well, make it good. Because we're expecting it to have depth and character, and then to not have plot holes or anything like that. And, to keep us intrigued, because that's what's going to keep us playing the next chapter. Because it is not required that we play these chapters.
Right.
Much like, McKeb. I can't tell you how many times I skipped McKeb because there was no need to play it, or I did Oricon like twice, So
I didn't actually like Oricon, but yeah, that's an option you get. You can skip over the sections you don't like.
Yeah, pretty much. And if they want to keep people playing through it, they have got to bring the story content, and they have to bring it back, and to keep the players intrigued. Even those of us who play the game for the community and the rating aspect, if they want us to continue playing, whatever they give us has got to be good.
Yeah,
I mean, they just need because we were kind of talking this beforehand. They need Star Wars is missing like a certain stickiness that you get with other.
Yeah, stickiness. There's that term again. But for the viewers, you guys weren't around. We actually were talking for like a good hour and a half before even the show started, and we mentioned this because I was talking about Guild Wars 2, where Guild Wars 2 they have like login rewards. You just log in and they give you free stuff, and every other game has something that you can come in and participate in. So Guild Wars 2 also has activities and dailies that everybody kind of gets involved in. But then you were mentioning, Andrew, what was it you were mentioning about stickiness? I think it was like Lord of the Rings Online?
Yeah, so you look at so it's mainly like a player housing type thing. Like I like the looks of a lot of the player housing. You can put a lot of time and work into them, but it's hard to share that.
Yeah.
And it's an isolating experience. Like I remember when it first launched, like fleet population dropped a little bit, because people were like, "Oh, I don't have to interact with people. I don't have to go to the GTN on fleet. I don't have to deal with all the people on fleet." It's kind of causes problems in terms of like what an MMO is, which is constantly interacting with people.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's just kind of weird. Now, like Lord of the Rings Online, I'm sure there are probably people that have played it, so they'll probably get more specifics on it. But from what I looked at their player housing, it was more like a neighborhood. You can go to, like, your house is next to someone.
Yeah.
Like, it is physically next to another house.
Yeah, like it's like that in Final Fantasy XIV as well, which I've just been playing a lot. And there is something about that. I think actually that brings up an interesting point, because there's two angles to this kind of community stickiness. There's like the in-game stickiness, and then there's like what Penny was talking about, which is like this is our guild on Vent, on TS, on GroupMe, on whatever our texting or communication chain is, and keeping together as group members even outside of the game. To kind of keep that tackiness. It's like I like playing with these people regardless of what the content is, and it's that aspect. Whereas like game stickiness is I need to interact with these other players to get the things that I'm looking for.
Yeah.
There's like whether that be through crafting or we celebrate things in housing, and the marriage ceremonies that they have those in Final Fantasy XIV, and I think you're always able to do this unofficially. I don't know if you can do them officially now, but one of my buddies in my new guild in Final Fantasy XIV had to run off to another server to officiate a wedding ceremony the other night. So I was like, let's talk stickiness, folks. It's like, all right.
I mean, on the flip side, I was one of those people that as soon as they released a Stronghold, I was all over it, because before I got my PC, I was actually on a laptop that it could run SWTOR, but it was on Play-Doh graphics, and loading into Fleet took a good solid 5 to 8 minutes. I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna go load into Fleet. I'm gonna go warm up a Hot Pocket, maybe grab something to drink, And by the time I get back, I might be able to see who's around me, because of just like the sheer number of people who just stand there.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they released player housing, and I didn't have to go to Fleet except to get gear pieces or to get into certain operations, I was all for it, because it allowed me to log off in a safe place where I know I'm not going to take 10 minutes to log into. So, I was one of those people that no longer went to Fleet. There was also a dual side of that where, on my first server, BC, I would hang out on Fleet, stealthed on my assassin, and I would get creepy whispers. So it definitely negates that as well.
That's kind of...
Oh, the skeeziness chills just went up my body.
So it was pretty bad. I was so excited. And then, you couldn't, because I came from BC, which is mostly an RP server. I know there's people who raid there. But there was also this whole stigma that I had no idea about when I started, where if you take people on your ship, that's implying something. And I'm just like, I don't understand. Okay. So, that was just me being, I guess, naive. Because I was like, we're just going to a planet. I don't see what everybody's freaking out about, but okay. So, there was that. So I, for one, was excited about player housing. I've dabbled in other games where they do have player housing, and they're all different. Like in Final Fantasy XI, kind of going into that vein, you could, like, your house, when you entered it, it was like your own house, and it was an instance, and people in your party could come in, but when you went back out, there was, like, general chat. Like, you could still see the general chat of whatever area you were in. So you could go in, you could get whatever, you could decorate, but you could still see, like, the general chat of that area.
Okay.
And then when you came back out, well, there's everybody. So it'd be like having a room on the Imperial fleet. So it'd be like, you go into a door and you're in your own room, and then you come out and you're still in the fleet. It'd be sort of similar to that. I haven't played enough Final Fantasy to see their player housing, but I do really want to, because I've heard so many good things.
One of the things that we were, by the way, again, this is for the audience. So Mr. Orange and I, we were talking before the show, and when we were talking about player housing, we also talked a little bit about missed opportunities, and the two things we talked about were housing and Galactic Starfighter. Where I kind of sat there and was like, Galactic Starfighter is such a cool idea in Star Wars, and if you're a gamer and you play Star Wars but you've never done Galactic Starfighter, you've got to do it at least once. Like, the whole control scheme for the game changes. You're now in a 3D, 6-dimensional environment where you can move through space.
I felt so out of my element.
It was, it's a flight simulator. You'll either love it or you hate it, but it's amazing, and it's a different aspect of the game, and I personally always felt like you have this incredible control scheme in there, and we don't get to blow up a Death Star with it. You know what I'm saying? It's like, we could expand on this in so many ways. Like, let's have us fly into a spaceship that's, crashing down to a planet as like an event, or as like a mission you could do, or go in and blow up some archaic piece of Ricotta technology or Agree technology or whatever. There's just so many things you could do with that control scheme, since they've already built that engine and have it running with the game. The other thing we talked about was strongholds. There's no real player benefit to it, and there's not a lot of ways for your other friends to see it unless you invite them in. It's not like a communal thing, and as far as a stickiness, if I had a stronghold, but I had to defend said stronghold against something, and doing so gave me some kind of reward. Cool. Yeah, and if I needed, the more friends I bought, the better the bonus I got or something would be awesome. Or you could get, some sort of tech chain going. The more you build up your house, the more resources you get. So instead of, as a crafter and me having to go out and hunt all those resources, if I have a bigger stronghold, more people just do it for me or something like that. Benefits to your character, we don't get those with strongholds, which I think would help.
Yeah.
And one of the cool things about Final Fantasy XIV is that they're neighborhoods, and you lose your housing if you do not log in enough. You lose your investment on your house if you aren't consistently playing. And so, but if a friend of yours logs in and gets in your house, I think this is the way I have this figured out. I breezed through this, but from what it looks like is that players coming through your house, your buddies, that kind of resets timers for you. So putting your house next to your buddy's house, or having an apartment next to your buddy's apartment is a good idea in that game, because community keeps that thing going even if you can't play. And it's a really neat idea that, if you're not an active gamer, you lose that plot of land, and now somebody else can move in next to their old buddy or their neighbor and such. And it put a value to it where it's like, oh man, visiting this is kind of a good idea. And guilds share houses and do all this different stuff. And I was really impressed by it. It was such a communal feel to it. Instead of just I have a static house, I decorate it for me. None of the things in it move. There's no characters that move or interact or anything. But yet you go to an apartment complex in Final Fantasy XIV, and there's a lot of other players running around, doing stuff with their houses and walking by, and some are sporting their fancy armor, and the whole area is built to be It almost feels like this is not the best example, but like an old folks retirement community where there's like a central like fountainy area or something, and people congregate there, and then there's buildings that like outlie it, and everybody seems to be having a really good time, and you're like, oh wow, it's a planned neighborhood, you know, and you're just kind of like, this is so cool, and you're like, I'm kind of an old man for feeling this way, but it's kind of awesome, you know, and have a good time.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
I'm fixing to throw it back really far. So back when I first started adventuring on the internet, there was something called Gaia Online, and they actually implemented houses for your avatar as well. It's like a forum. Anyways, I'm not going to explain it. But basically, when you leave your house, people can come and go in your house and check it out. And then when you go out, it's like that big, like there's a water fountain, there's trees, there's other houses, there's like all this other stuff that you can do. So it's sort of the same thing. And it's actually all like in your web browser, which was always really kind of cool to me. So it's sort of like Final Fantasy in that respect.
That is cool.
Probably not as fancy, but still in the same vein.
Nice. Yeah. So I lost my train of thought because I heard like a little ding. By the way, for my audience, we're on TeamSpeak, and this is
the perfect
setup.
Bad.
Oh, no worries. And so sometimes those come across the video, and I'll hear them and just be like, "Oh wait, what's going on?" And so yeah. But yeah, with regards to stickiness, okay. So this kind of actually brings us back to like the first part of the night, and so I know for a lot of folks, when the trailer came out for Star Wars, the older Knights of the Eternal Throne, some people had, I would say, kind of a negative reaction. Not necessarily actually to the trailer. The trailer was awesome. The announcement that there wasn't any clear statements about rating in particular. That you know, which you know, if you're a newer Star Wars player, I'm just going to say this out for you. The leveling process, if you're a new player to Star Wars, man, you got a lot to chew on. I wouldn't even worry about this next part, okay? Because, like, 8 character classes, all with different stories, gameplays, and then you can even play them more than once with light side, dark side options. You've got enough on your plate. But if you're a returner player, and you've already done all those things kind of already, you've been through the stories, you've done the previous raids, new raids are really kind of what you're looking for. And to not really get a definitive, like, hey, this is what we're going to give you guys. That was kind of a thing. What have you guys seen as far as not getting a clear announcement on that? Has there been a lot of negative blowback from that, or do you feel like there's still a lot of headway and still like, you know what, we're cool, we're moving on ahead, we're going to have a great time with whatever they do have, or here's some new ideas we have for some of the older stuff? Like, how do you guys feel about that in particular?
So as a guild leader, you know, it has impacted our guild. You know, a lot of people have decided to take a break from SWTOR until they release some type of solid content. Others are pursuing other games. They're still obviously within our community, but, you know, they're very vocal about the fact that they're not going to play until they release some sort of, okay, yes, we're doing raids, or, you know, some of them are PvPers, yes, we're doing new PvP maps.
Oh, yeah.
So it did affect us. I mean, you know, we're not the largest guild on Harbinger. I did not want a very big guild, you know, when we started this whole recruitment process. So, you know, our community is very tight-knit, and when we lose people, obviously we feel it. And I feel like it negatively affected us in that aspect. And it's always a little bit discouraging to me personally when they don't confirm or deny anything. Like, it feels like when you're cooking your date a dinner and she's complimenting your cooking skills, and then she takes a bite and she's full. And you're just like, wow, I just feel like really led on right there.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of like that, you know? Like, here's our little tidbits, and oh, nope, just kidding. So I really feel like it negatively affects us in that aspect, at least. You know, like I said, I remain hopeful, and maybe that's foolish, and I kind of know that, but I love my raid team, again, and I love my guild, and I will stay and try to do the best that I can for my guild and for my community before I just give up.
That's good. How about you, Andrew? Like, you're not a guild leader right now. Wait, are you? Except for Invictus. Yeah.
I've been an officer in another guild for a while.
Yeah.
Before I came to Morn's Man. And I mean, we had a mass exodus right before 4.0.
Oh, wow.
So, because there were a lot of people upset with the way some of the fights were done in Revan so Toss and Ravagers.
Really? What happened with this? This is new information.
They didn't. They were sick of some of the bugs that kept on appearing. They were sick of like new raids not being like constantly like cycled in. I mean, these are people that consume Star Wars at a incredibly high rate.
Yeah.
Like they were on all the time. They probably had a couple hundred. Well, probably had one guy had 200 days on one tune, something like that. Yeah. Like, these guys played the game a lot, and they cared about the game, and they were just upset with what was going on with the game and the direction of it.
Yeah.
And a couple of them, like, quit off the bat. One of them, like, took, like, a break and then came back, went, like, full head in. Mm-hmm. Like, he was our GM. And then he kind of eventually decided, no, I just can't do it. And that was right before 4.0.
Yeah.
Before Penny and Xenoff came back, or before Xenoff was in Invictus before.
Yes, he was in Invictus before, which is actually the reason why he told me to go mention my name. They'll more than likely need a healer. But yeah, he was there before, and then we came back as a trio.
Yeah. Well, here's one of the things I can safely say is that with me personally as a gamer, I love SWTOR. However, I do feel like I've kind of seen every horizon, especially as like I've been making more and more SWTOR videos. Because even though, and this is just me, by the way, guys, and a personal disclaimer, I used to love raiding. However, it was actually some of the people I raided with that burned it out for me, to where I just felt like, no, I'm not going to do this anymore. Plus, I had some real life things that came up where I was like, I need to focus on these other things. But one of the things that actually keeps Star Wars fresh to me is that I already have actually had a huge investment into it. I have a huge number of tunes, a lot of things to explore, and when new content does come out, I do want to kind of see every little variation of it, up to a point. Where I'm like, I do want to see that on my Jedi versus on my agent, where this story kind of takes its turn and whatnot. The thing that actually, though, has kept this game really fresh for me isn't actually by playing the game, is actually by playing other games a little bit. And that way, when I do jump back into Star Wars, I see it with fresh eyes. And I get to come back to it, and I see it like, oh, here's this thing I really liked about the game. And now I can look at it, and like little surprises. Like, actually, I took a little bit of a break while I went on vacation, and in one of those patches when I came back, now, like, vibroblades, if you have two of them equipped, both appear on your character's back. Now, to anybody listening to this podcast or my show or whatever like that, might be scratching their head just going like, so what do you say, Zach? Well, let me tell you, since launch, if you decided not to play with a lightsaber as a lightsaber-wielding character, if you used a vibroblade instead, which is kind of like an electric blade that isn't a lightsaber, it would physically look like a sword that was like slung across your back. But if you had two equipped and you were dual wielding like a Marauder or a Sentinel, only one of which would go on your back and look like it was standing there, even if you wielded two. Now two appear on your back. And that surprised me. I was like, wait a minute, what did they put this in? That little quality of life change. All of a sudden I was like, what else did they change while I was gone? Wait a second. And all of a sudden I'm like, wait, I was going through all my characters and just seeing how it looks on all my characters and doing all this crazy stuff. That was like from like a little break. Like, I didn't even know they put that in there. I haven't really been keeping up with the patch notes lately. And that little thing actually got me really excited again. I was like, I wonder what else they could possibly be changing. Because I think I know this game pretty well. But, wait a sec. Something brand new could be coming out. And something maybe that I've been waiting for a really long time. Like that. Yeah, by the way, BioWare, Eric, if you're listening, hoods. Let us see hair underneath them.
Or hood up, hood down option.
And a hood up, hood down option. Oh, dude, Final Fantasy 14 has a visor up, visor down option on gear that can allow that. And I was like, "This is sick." I must have been pushing the button for visor up, visor down, visor up, visor down, visor up, visor like a rat getting cheese. How to?
They'd have to.
That was crazy.
They would have to redo a lot of armors and stuff because of that. Like that would be. I mean, I'd rather have them put more effort towards like content.
Yeah.
And like little.
And be specific for our audience members. What would you like to see BioWare work on? Because on the off chance I get Eric Musco watching this particular episode after I tweet it, because he's on my Twitter, and you can be too, by the way, audience members. Zach Ember. Okay, what would you like to see the content? And what kind of content would you like to see him focus on?
So the content that I like, I would like to see more raids, but they have to do it in a way that is like reflects this current state of the game. Because you don't have like if you're a hardcore raider, you knew who Hatred was, you knew who Zors were.
Yeah.
Like the two big hardcore raiding groups. You don't have that anymore. So while you'll still in a raid, I still think you would get like high tier and like difficulty. You still have to cater to all levels.
Yeah.
So they would have to balance a raid in terms of that. Now, there are ways they can do that. They could introduce raid content. I guess I like when you consider like SWTOR as a business and how it actually makes money. Because I've said this before with like some of my guildies on it. Like the big thing that makes them money is the story content.
Yeah.
So how do you weave that into? How do you duplicate that into a raid? Because like while the vocal people want a raid, like myself, are we really the majority, or are we just loud?
Yeah.
And that's kind of another thing to consider.
That is a really
good point.
So
they have to. They want to satisfy the vocal people out there that want raids, but at the same time, they still have to make people happy that are actually making them money.
Yeah.
Too. So they have to balance that, and that can be hard.
Yeah.
So, like the raid content we may get may not be like some of the raid content we've had before.
Right. And let's
like
be
a Nightmare Power.
Yeah.
And let's be real here. All three of us know exactly where the money comes from in this game. It's the guys who buy the cartel items.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, and subscriptions, since those have gone up from this newer stuff. So, I mean, you have your, like, if you know anything about mobile gaming, you have your, like, whales out there that buy a ton of stuff, that spend a ton of money.
Yeah.
And they're like the small percentage of the population. And then you have everyone else.
Yeah. But even, I will safely say, though, people with disposable income, they do tend to spend it when they're invested into a game that they like.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
And there's definitely always those whales. And but I definitely feel it. Like even just yesterday in Final Fantasy 14, there's an armor set that gives a 30% experience bonus under level 30, and level 30 is actually like a really like prime leveling number in that game for a lot of different things. Anyway, yeah, I dropped $18 on that without even really thinking about it. I was like, I'm saving up for a car in real life, and I still drop $20 at the drop of a hat because I'm like, woo, 30% extra experience. Can't live without that, you know. Shut up and take my money, you know. I just like that was it, and that's like a different video game. With Star Wars, I lost track of how much I've spent on cartel coins.
Yeah, and I haven't spent anything on cartel coins in the last like 6 to 8 months, but I used to spend it was, I don't know, maybe $60 a month.
Yeah.
I used to spend upwards of that.
Yeah.
I obviously don't do that anymore, but I mean, I don't regret doing it because I got something out of it. Like I still enjoyed it. I guess that's the biggest thing. Like if you got something out of it, then you're fine.
Yeah. I'm on the other side of that fence. Sometimes I get some buyer's remorse. I actually just spent a bunch to. If you guys were keeping up with my videos, Mr. Orange, you probably weren't, but Penny may have. where I was trying the entire Dark vs. Light event to get the Revan Reborn set, was like the primary goal, the Satil Shan set, and I was looking to get the Zoxan set. Those are like the 3 armor sets that I really wanted out of that event. And I was going through like DVL packs, not the ones you buy, but the ones from the event and stuff. I did buy one pack for one of my videos, and just a whole bunch of stuff. Anyway, end of the story, I get all 3 by hook or by crook. I either paid like millions of credits for it on the GTN. I sold and traded stuff from other YouTubers. So much went into this, and then I finally got all 3 sets. And I kid you not, the moment, like maybe 2 to 20 seconds after I fully equipped the Revan Reborn armor set on my very first character who got it, and I was like, yes! Oh. That's actually the moment I stopped playing. That was it. That was it. Like, oh, mission accomplished. I got it. What do I want? What do I want to do next? And I had that like little bit of like buyer's remorse of like, how much work and effort did I just put into getting these 3 armor sets? That basically was my summer. Like that was so much of it. So I never feel bad about people with buyer's regret. But what's interesting actually, when you were saying that was on Dolphy.net. I'm a huge fan of Dolphy's website and everything that they do there. But what's interesting was like when you were talking vocal majority, vocal minority. Man, I feel it, because like you look there every time there's a pack that they announce, there's 100 to like 400 different people all saying like, "Oh, another stupid pack. Why aren't we actually getting our raid?" And I'm like, "Well, it's because the pack is where the money's at. You know, let's just be real here. They're running a business. If we had to pay to play a raid, well, that would probably kill this game. But
yes, it would.
You know, but if people were willing, they're like, yeah, I'll pay 50 cents to play there. If people were willing, and nobody bought packs whatsoever, then yeah, the model would change. They would make raids, you know, a lot more frequently. But you're right that they're the most vocal. But for sure, yeah, I'm with you 100%. Yeah, I completely see where BioWare sees its income coming from and who they cater to.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just
the
nature of like business.
Yeah, and almost every game that is an MMO does have some sort of cash shop.
Yeah.
I would treat myself to a certain number of cartel coins every month. Usually I would just drop like, the $30, and get myself at least one of the new packs.
Oh, cool.
That dropped every month. But I've since stopped doing that as well because I realize that that's how they make their money, but at the same time, it's like, okay, you were catering to me and you gave me raids. Now you're not catering to me. You're not giving me raids, so you're not getting my money. So
Eric Musco, if you're listening, this is one of the people keeping your game alive. Okay, just note.
It's both ways. Like, I don't mind dropping money on a game that I'm enjoying. I used to play Terra a lot more frequently than I played Sator. And they have a cash shop too, and you can actually buy like 30-day passes off their cash shop versus subscribing. Or you can be a monthly subscriber. And they have a really great free-to-play model, which is just how that game is. But, they have nifty cash shop items too. That's how a lot of people make coin in that game as well. Or, that's just how they have all the nifty outfits or, mounts or whatever it may be. And it's much like SWTOR. I dabbled in WoW, but it just didn't hold my interest. And I know Guild Wars 2 also has a cash shop.
Yeah. Last note on stickiness. Because actually what you just mentioned about WoW brought me to this. We've actually talked about this in another game. Or not another game, another one of our episodes. But we are trying to wrap this up a little bit. But let me throw this out at you. What would happen if, and this is a mighty big if because BioWare has never said anything about it, but what would you think would happen as far as like getting players back if Star Wars announced that there was going to be a new character class?
I think that would be huge, personally.
Oh, yeah.
When you introduce those classes, I mean, it does add an extra balance and complexity that they have to deal with.
Yeah.
But it draws interest. And you can get people back in that maybe haven't played for a couple of years. Maybe a couple months. They see this new class. Oh, it's something new to learn and master. You got people like that have stopped playing. That they think they've done everything, and they're like, well, I'm just gonna sit here, twiddle my thumbs for a little bit, and then they just eventually stop playing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, I agree. That would be a way to catch interest again, aside from having new like 8-man group content or 16-man or whatever. That would be a way to catch a lot of eyes. Like, oh, we have this new special class, and it's worked in, very well. I mean, I think that'd be really awesome.
Yeah. I haven't played WoW in years, but when they announced that you could play as what was it called now?
Demon Hunter.
Yeah, Demon Hunter. I was interested. I haven't played that game in years, and all of a sudden I was like, dang, Demon Hunter? Really? That's a class now? You can do that? Like, all of a sudden I was like, man, what's going on? And with Star Wars, like I said, we were talking earlier, this is for my audience, like, Mr. Orange and I, we've talked about this, and then Penny and Xenoff, we've talked about this. Of like, Xenoff had one of the best suggestions ever, which is a gray Jedi, which I think the game is primed for now, when you talk about all the guys from the Zakulian Empire who are somewhere between light and dark. And you have, Darth Mar, and you've got, Satil Shan all talking also about trying to find some place between light and dark. Having a Jolie Bindo type character of just jumping in and just being like, yo, I am in between those two things. I can use both moves. Or now that we just had the HK chapter come out, and it was really, really freaking fun to play as a droid, I'm still on board with, like, man, I would love to see a droid class, especially one where instead of gear pieces, you change out the way your character looks if you choose to do that, or you choose the way it looks and you just change the paint jobs, or some other way to decorate them out with like bandoliers or whatever.
And a droid could be all three. It could be a DPS, a healer, or a tank.
Right, Mr. Orange is like cackling right now because, like, I said the same thing earlier. I was like, because that's been my dream for a droid class. All right, well, guys, I hate to say it, but we are out of time. We've hit the hour mark, so I'll just go ahead and wrap us up. But thank you guys both for being on my show, and then Mr. Orange. I usually like to thank my first-time guests with a little bit of a gift of cartel coins, and so I'll send you a little code for 450 cartel coins for being on my show. Much appreciated, man. Really, really loved having you step in. And then
no problem.
Penny, as usual, mwah, 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 mwah. Love you, kiddo.
Mwah.
Anyway, and so for all my guests, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Real Talk with Real Gamers. And again, today we were talking a little bit about gaming fatigue and some of the Knights of the Eternal Throne. If you guys are interested in seeing more content like this, please go ahead and like and subscribe to my channel. That lets me know that you're enjoying the content I'm putting out for you, and that pushes us to make even more content. Also, you can catch me on my Twitter for Zach Ember, and if you have any questions, comments, or thoughts below, put them on down. I'd love to hear from you guys. If you guys have suggestions on how to combat gaming fatigue or things that you feel would definitely make you excited for the next expansion and keep you playing long term, put that down below. I'd love to hear it. Anyway, guys, we'll see you next time.